Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below this video. Also check out nathanoakley.com to join the Flat Earth Debate Community Forum. Most importantly though, if you would like to join this discussion right now live, then simply click the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, be sure to mute the watch page you're currently watching, and please do not swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we're currently joined by Dave Murphy and Sleeping Warrior. Good to have you both.
Woo! Welcome.
You may or may not be familiar to how we start these shows off, Dave, but what we have is a series of questions called housekeeping. If you're not familiar, just roll with it and just answer honestly. So, on your travels, have you seen any signs of curvature?
No. No.
That's quick. Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Nope. Nope.
What about evidence for all the space believers that you can have a gas pressure without a container?
Can't have a gas pressure without a container.
Absolutely not.
No. It's a fundamental rule of law of nature, and we can't defy it ever.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Lots of evidence that it isn't 93 million miles away.
Yeah, lots of evidence that it isn't a giant gas ball of hydrogen-helium fusion. No evidence of its distance, and we can't even establish whether you can chuck rocks at it or not. So I don't think there is a distance to the sun.
Right, scientific evidence of gravity?
No.
Well, gravity, which keeps getting confused with the tendency of things to fall when you let go of them. Yeah, gravity is just a theory to account for that. It's not the same thing. So when people say, "Oh, yeah, gravity obviously exists," well, no, it doesn't. Obviously. Sorry?
I need to correct you there. Actually, the current science for gravity is a mathematical construct that includes the fourth dimension of time, and they describe it as the curvature of space-time. So unless you can demonstrate me a little bit of curving of space-time to prove that that's the cause of things falling to Earth, then the evidence for gravity is unfortunately mathematical by construct and not physical whatsoever, and there is no science for gravity. So that's a better answer, Dave.
Sure, but what I'm trying to say is that, you know, the tendency of things to fall when you let go of them is independent of the theory that we call gravity. Yeah, so it's self-existing anyway, and just the label gravity. Yeah, people associate that tendency of things to fall with the label gravity and say they're the one and the same. They're not. One's a theory, as a construct, and one is the inherent property of this realm. Yeah, and when you say, oh, there's no such thing as gravity, people will say, well, obviously when you let go of something it falls. So they conflate the two.
They do conflate the two. You're right.
And the thing about what you're saying about the curvature of space-time, when you really look into it, the curvature of space-time describes how things will be attracted to a mass, yeah, if it's moving past that mass, yeah. But it doesn't account for the motive force that makes things move. Well, yeah, a curvature of lines will tell you where a moving thing will move to, but it doesn't tell you why it would move.
Well, who cares? At the end of the day, it's a mathematical construct that is to do with the curvature of space-time that we can neither test or manipulate or prove with any form of scientific experiment. For whatever the interpretations may or may not be, it's a concept, it's a paradigm, it's a collection of ideas that Einstein, to quote Brian Cox, was thinking about for around 10 years. Well, I've been thinking about flat Earth for 2 years. Does that mean that it's flat? So whatever gravity is or is not, the interaction that we can prove, that we can manipulate, that we can vary, we can demonstrate is relative density, the density of the target in the medium it sits in. You play about with the medium, the target will do something. Remove the medium, the target will fall. And that's all it is.
Right. And I did a thought experiment on gravity. And I said, if you get a gas bottle, and you weigh an empty gas bottle and zero out that weight, and then fill that gas bottle with 10 pounds of helium. Okay, so now you can measure, you can weigh this 10 pounds of helium out, so you know that you've got 10 pounds. Then fill a balloon with that 10 pounds of helium, and then sort of hold up the helium balloon and a 10-pound weight and let go of them. What will happen? Well, the 10-pound weight will go down and the 10 pounds of helium will go up. That's telling you that it's not anything to do with mass or this gravity thing. It's literally buoyancy and density.
Well, not buoyancy and density, but relative density. As soon as you invoke the word buoyancy, they will take you to an equation that includes it with gravity in the description. So it's just relative density. The buoyancy bit is actually redundant.
Well, when I say buoyancy, I mean again, I'm a real world person, yeah. So when I say buoyancy, I mean the tendency of something to float on top of another medium, yeah. I don't mean the mathematical conception of buoyancy.
No, I totally get it. You're not talking pseudo-Riemannian 4 space or Euclidean 3 space. You're talking about what actually happens when you let go of a helium balloon.
What happens in the world, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the bit that we lose sight of. Everybody's got this temptation to make it mathematical, but then when you do that, you're able to manipulate the maths to do things. And Conspiracy Cats was doing it on his latest gas video. Have you seen Baldy Cat's latest video? He talks about having a concentration of gas in like a globus, like this globule in the middle of a container. And the question is, well, how do you have that? Because gas will always fill the available the volume. And because it fills the volume, you can't have it as a globus nucleus in the middle of a something. It needs to be evenly distributed through the available material or the available volume. And he's spouting pseudoscience to people that believe him. And then when we challenge it with legitimate opposition, he claims victim status, saying that we're only doing it for money. And I'm like, I'm not even a monetized channel. You idiot.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, because it's the same way they use words. They use language. Yeah, we can see stuff in the world. We can interact with things in the world and see how they work. But you can use words to actually negate everything that we feel and see. Yeah, with a construct of words. They do exactly the same with a construct of numbers.
Yeah. The minute you start reducing something into mathematical formulae, it starts becoming pseudoscience if you're not careful. And a lot of people don't realize it. And until they do realize it, it's like I always give the ice creams example. It's like, if you've got 2 ice creams in your hand, I can't physically take 5 off you and leave you with -3. But in maths, you can. But maths isn't real world. And that's the problem with it.
Right. Do you mind if I go through the rest of the housekeeping? So I've only got a couple more questions. But before we do, I'm going to say hello to a few new guests. So we've had, not in any particular order, The Plain Truth, Karen B, Chocolate Sane, and Arwin. Good to have you all.
Good afternoon.
Good morning.
I smell coconut.
Good morning. Good morning.
And Spurs Chemo.
Morning, Karen.
Good morning, Chocolate.
Mr. Dave Murphy, good to have you on here, brother.
Hi there.
Hi, Dave.
Rattle
Good
our
to
way
see
through
you.
the last couple of housekeeping questions.
Hey guys, hey
on the
Nathan,
side.
hey
Spurs.
Anthony.
So I'll just rattle through the last couple of housekeeping questions. So, any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Well, once again, there's lots of evidence to say there isn't, such as metal losing magnetism when it gets hot.
Last but not least, any evidence of the almighty R value Earth radius?
Nope.
None at all.
Only in a 2-dimensional zone, not in 3 dimensions. Oh, hello.
No, well, that concludes housekeeping. Thank you very much.
Easy. So what do we talk about now then? Is it an open panel? Dave, do you want to lead, given that you're the guest, or would you rather follow?
I go with whatever, because you know, I'm new here.
All right.
Well, Anthony, I wanted to ask, because remember you were asking about who is responsible for this lie. So Dave is here. I'm sure he can, you know, give an idea if somebody is responsible for this lie, or if you know, who can we address or direct this globe lie at? Yeah,
I think we're all responsible for it.
I would say there is somebody responsible. It's the bloodline, and we know who that bloodline is. It's this elite bloodline that has moved across this earth, conquering and subjugating, and it's no surprise really that this kicked up into high gear 500 years ago, because a lot of stuff happened 500 years ago, or you know, around that period, including and this is off the air. We were talking about how I've been looking at various things, various topics, one after the other, and rather than concentrate on one. And when you do look at lots and lots of different topics, you start to see the correlation between them. And one of them is that 500 years ago, thereabouts, we had this law called Sesta KV, which basically, I guess, you know, imprisons us all. By literally when you're born, they register you with the government essentially, and you actually hand over ownership of the child to the government, and they entrap you in a corporate system. That's one of the little aspects, but lots of things happened 500 years ago, including, you know, this idea of the flat earth being sort of ramped up into people's consciousness. So yes, there is somebody who's responsible, and the descendants of those people are still in power today, and it's all about power.
Yeah. Is there anybody you think we could take to court? We could apprehend. We could justice. Looking for justice. Is there any way of any kind of justice, basically?
No, when they own the courts, yeah, they own the police, they own the prisons. So you know, it's like, you know, going to one part of the mafia to complain about the mafia.
But at the same time, the part of the narrative is that they have to give us a remedy as well. So the issue that I'm wrestling through as I go through my court issues is, where do you find the information that they are going to say, look, we gave you the information. It's not our fault you didn't know where it was. So it's almost, there's a bit of a sleight of hand, and there's also a bit of a revelation. So we should know, but it's also hidden in such a way that it's still mysterious. So what are your thoughts on that in terms of...
We've had a couple of new guests, so Eric and Paul, just say a quick hello if you don't mind.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Hello, both of you. Good to have you both.
Thanks. Right. Well, to answer your question, there is more sleight of hand going on, because what the principle they use is tacit acceptance. Yeah. So that just means silent acceptance. So if they put stuff out, and that is their offer to you, you know, they offer you this information, and if you don't say anything, then you silently agree to it, and that's their get out clause. Because you're right, they have to tell us what they're doing. They have to give us that information, but they do it in ways that we don't see, we don't understand. And an example would be the film Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I assume everyone's seen that film.
I love that film.
Right. Well, there was a part in that film. There was a part in that film that was dark, very dark. You know, for a children's film, it was a very dark episode in that film, and that was the child catcher. Okay. Now, in the original book, which was by Ian Fleming of James Bond fame, there was no child catcher. That was put in by Disney or whoever made that film. But that was an offer. That was to say, would you accept child stealing by the state? And nobody complained about that dark period in that film. So that was tacit acceptance. And what happened after that was child stealing by the state ramped up.
Right, but so let's unpack that if you don't mind. No one knew that was a tacit offer. No one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of the sleight of hand. It's like when you and I relate to each other, I don't operate duplicitously and offer you something on the sly, and then when you don't say anything, I go, I've gotcha. We don't operate that way. We don't normally.
Sorry, Travis. You're misunderstanding what's actually happening. So
okay.
It's not that they're asking explicitly for an acceptance. They're gauging reactions.
There is an acceptance part of it. This is actually how they're doing it. They, you know, in this world, in this realm, what you put out there will come back to you. Right? You know, so if you kill somebody, right, well, it's going to come back to you. If you cheat somebody, it's going to come back to you. Yeah. So the only way to deflect that is to actually get somebody's acceptance. If you say, I want to steal from you, I want to take this from you, is that okay? And you say, yeah, then that person isn't stealing from you, really, because you've accepted it. So literally by sneakily asking us these questions and us accepting it, right, then, you know, for want of a better word, the karma doesn't come back on them because we've accepted it. So it is sleight of hand. And yes, you're right, we wouldn't do that. But the people who are doing this are psychopaths. Yeah, these are people who don't mind if they get killed as long as you die first. You know, this is who we're dealing with. We can't think in the same terms as they can.
And it's also quite difficult. I mean, I've covered psychopathy in quite a few videos because I see it as directly linked to the subject of flat earth in terms of the motivation, the who part of the question, which, to be perfectly brutally honest, I think is less important than the why. Why have they lied to us? You covered that immediately. Well, it's for power. But the motivation behind it, beyond the actual power that they acquire, the control that they acquire, is difficult to quantify because it's psychopaths. Sometimes it can be as simple as for a laugh. Now, that sounds like a bit far-fetched, but it's actually got a term, duper's delight. Now, some of the things they tell us, they're not telling us because they want tacit acceptance. They're just laughing in our faces.
Yeah, there is that. And there is this, you know, it's trying to avoid the blowback that's inevitable. But there is a darker reason beyond psychopathy. And it's not a popular one because it's already got me uninvited to a flat Earth conference, and probably would have got me kicked off the flat Earth conference that I did go to because.
Oh, this sounds juicy! Know, excellent.
But it's all biblical. The whole thing, what's going on in the world right now, all goes back to the Old Testament, and the psychopaths are playing a part. Yeah, it all goes back to a war between two brothers, and you know, at this point, only one of the brothers know that they're at war, and that's it. It's the whole thing. You know, the flat Earth. You know, the Big Bang theory, the theory of evolution. You know, all of this. It's all geared to winning a war. And keeping one part of the population under subjection and blind to what's really going on.
Tell me more. What's this war?
Oh, okay. It's war for dominion of the earth. Two brothers. The eldest one, who traditionally would inherit everything. Well, in this case, he didn't inherit everything. The blessing was passed to the younger brother, and the older brother begged for some kind of blessing, and he was given a temporary blessing. And the last 500 years has been, the period of the temporary blessing of Esau, essentially, so that he would live in the fatness of the land, and he would enjoy a luxurious life, but he would gain it by the sword, by warfare and murder. And that's what's happened for the last 500 years. And but now the time's over, because that blessing was a temporary one. And so, the other brother got the actual blessing, which was inheriting the earth.
So it's the age-old story of kind of good versus evil, then.
Yes, because at the behind, again, it's many levels, but behind the human story is the sort of spiritual one. If I hate using that word, but the spiritual part of it is that okay. I'm sure this wasn't the topic you really wanted to talk about.
Well, Dave, before you go on, can I ask why would they have banned you from the conference for saying what you've just said? I mean, it sounds reasonable. It's an idea. Why do you think it's so offensive to people?
Right, because part of the deception of trying to hide this was the creation of another book. It was the New Testament was a creation designed to keep you away from the real story of what's going on, and it was written by the same people, or the children of Esau, the ones who didn't get the promise, and so they put this new book on top of the Old Testament, which isn't a religious book; it's a book of history and law and guidance. So they put this new book on top and created a religion around it. Okay, and that religion just steers you off into another realm of bullshit, basically, of salvation and somebody dying on a stick or whatever, and keeps you away from it. So I exposed this, and I actually put a video out called JC Exposed. And I put it out just before the Denver conference. And I think if I could have been uninvited from that conference, I would have been. But then I was uninvited from the New Zealand conference.
And you think because of what you're talking about now?
Yes, essentially telling the real story and not the this Messiah story. Because Flat Earth seems to have turned into a Christian enterprise now.
Right, that's very interesting.
Yeah, if you look in the chat, you can already see people are getting all up in arms about what he's been talking about.
Nice. And funny enough, in Denver, somebody asked a question about the second Exodus. I don't know how that came out, but Rob Skiba basically said, I don't know. He gave a little answer and was like, I don't know. But if you read the Old Testament, it's absolutely clear what's going to happen. And so I basically said it, and yeah, I got some backlash from that as well.
Right.
So stunned everybody into silence. Sorry.
I think the religious question is something people don't want to address just yet or right now. I think a lot of the community want empirical evidence of where we live. So I think the religious question will come, it will arise, but not just yet until we know exactly. Because I'm sure you've heard other people say, "Oh, we've gone from one idea to now another idea. So how do we verify these ideas? You know?
Right. Well, first of all, I'm going to say, the flat Earth is essentially taken over by Christians now. I mean, it's like if you're not a Christian, if you disagree with it, you literally get almost ostracized from the main flow of the flat Earth now.
Hang on. So if you're not a Christian and disagree with it, is that what you just said?
If you're not a Christian and you kind of disagree, if you speak out about the Christian aspect of it, then you're kind of almost pushed aside from the mainstream. And when I say the mainstream of flat Earth, I mean the conferences and what have you.
Well, I guess I'll be getting pushed.
Yeah,
I guess I'll be getting pushed.
I don't experience it at all because, what is the main chunk?
It's true. I've already had Christian flat earthers say to me that only Christians have a right to flat Earth. Like they're the only ones who even have a right to be involved in it or speak about it. Yeah.
Let me just say that to those people that think that. To those people that think that, you're wrong.
Yep.
All right.
Zealots come in all forms. It's a shame.
No, not you. But if somebody tells me that I have no right to be in flat Earth if I'm not a Christian, I would say no. I've got every right to be here because I don't.
Yeah, he's talking about what I just said. How I've had Christian people tell me that only Christians should be talking about flat Earth. Like it's only a Christian issue.
All right, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this because I've posted it ad nauseum. I'm a Christian, and I'm flat Earth. And I will stand on this, that the Bible is not a flat Earth book. If you want to discuss it with me, please contact me. But this is absolutely not a Christian issue.
I agree, as a Christian as well.
Get him, quick.
I'm a Christian as well, so.
Well, I'm not, and as I said, I'm just saying what I've experienced, and I spoke to the Flat Earth New Zealand conference people after I was uninvited, and they were all sort of nice and saying, well, it's because of other reasons and so on, but I dug in a little bit, and it was. I inflamed them so much that they just came out and said, well, it's because of that video. And, you should have expected some backlash because of saying such things, So it was obvious. It was all about that. And
so, I'm still confused, Dave. Sorry to interrupt. So are you saying that the backlash was from Christians against your non-Christianity or the other way around?
It was Christians against my my non-Christianity.
Oh, okay.
It's me actually saying that this character JC was a Roman creation, and I basically all my video was looking at the claims made in the New Testament and comparing them with what's said in the Old Testament, and saying, well, no, they don't match up.
So, are you saying that Jesus Christ did not exist, or are you saying he's a made-up character?
I'm saying he's a made-up character.
You are aware of the references to a guy by the name of Christus that did roam the Mediterranean region around the time that Christ was said to live.
And are you aware of the numerous Christuses in various cultures, and especially in the Roman and Greek culture? Right?
Oh, so what you're saying is it might not necessarily be the Jesus Christ that is right. I get you.
That's what I'm saying. All the elements of Christianity are pre-existing before Christianity.
Hey, Dave, have you ever read a book called? Hang on. Have you ever read a book called "Evidence That Demands a Verdict" by Josh McDowell?
No, I haven't.
I would highly recommend reading that book. He was I think it was a law student that went out to disprove Christianity, and he actually, after doing all the research, came back believing that it was true. So I would highly recommend that book.
Okay, recommend the title again, just so it's clear for the audience.
It's called "Evidence That Demands a Verdict" by Josh McDowell.
Okay, at this point, I'm going to say if there's anybody else and I'm not going to specifically label Christians, but anybody else who wants to address this, do it now, because I'm going to move on. This is definitely...
No, I just want to ask one final question then. So, Dave, you said the Old Testament is from... Well, is it from God? The New Testament is not. Are you saying the Old Testament is inspired from God, or is it written by man? Is it to be believed? What's your take on the old versus the new? Who wrote and things like that?
Well, Moses wrote the first 5 books, finished off probably by Joshua or somebody else in there. But if you read one of the books of the Apocrypha, Second Esdras, you'll find that it was Ezra who basically rewrote the whole thing in Paleo Hebrew, under the direction of the Most High.
Yeah, so you agree it's inspired by God, the first part of that book?
Yeah, the Old Testament, yeah.
Yeah, so from Adam and Eve. Is it okay to discuss this, Nathan, or you want to move on? Because I don't know how this...
I'd personally prefer if Travis's assertion got addressed, because it's far more akin to the topic. I don't know if you want to remake your assertion about the Bible specifically, Travis.
Well, it's a very heavy topic. Marty Leeds discussed it yesterday. Dave is bringing up issues that I would disagree with, because I would assert that the continuity between the New Testament and the Old Testament is fluid. It is consistent. And it all depends on how you think the story should be interpreted.
No. That's not what I meant.
Sorry.
You asserted that it's not a flat Earth book. Well, it's
right. Yeah, no, I'm getting there. I'm sorry. I'm getting
my bad.
Right.
My bad. Sorry, I was too quick.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. So just to put it into brass tacks, the Hebrew word for earth that we translate into English is the same word that we translate in the very next sentence as land. So in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, but it's the same Hebrew word, eretz. And that word simply means land. So the way I've said it is, there is no word in the Bible for earth. When we think of, if we're globalists, if we think of the globe, that's not the way the Bible thinks. The word earth for flat earthers is not a globe, but it's worldwide. It's extensive. That's not the way the Bible thinks. So I would say the word earth should not ever be used in the Bible, because that's not what the Bible means by land. The Bible is very geographic. The Bible is very historic and explicit. So when you read of the land being fixed and the land being firm and the land, my question is, what land are we talking about? Because the Bible's not talking about Africa. It's not talking about Australia. It's not talking about North America. It's talking about Israel, a specific plot of land. And the way that it's speaking is metaphoric. It's established. It's firm. It will not be moved. That's just simply poetic. So,
well, let me bring this back on topic.
Sorry, 1 second, Anthony. Why would you say that's metaphoric? I mean, in my experience of the Bible, which is extremely limited, I'm not going to pretend I'm some Bible expert, when they are talking in metaphors, or when the Bible is describing something metaphorically, it's explicit and says it is.
Well, I would ask you to give me an example of what you mean so that I would understand exactly, because I disagree. I've got a whole podcast where I unpack the way I think is helpful to understand the Bible. But in the beginning, God created the heavens and the land, okay? That's metaphoric. He's not talking about the physical cosmos.
Why? It's not a parable.
Yeah, it is.
Well, let me just bring it back on topic. It's a geometric or a trigonometric issue that we're all trying to interpret, and it's, in my opinion, devoid of any religion. I think that no religion can claim any right over it, regardless of whether they think they're the highest or not. Yes, religion may play into it, but it's subjective to the person, and I can respect that. But the topic itself is objective, and it's geometric or trigonometric. It's one or the other, in my view.
Right.
I'm done.
Well, I would say that the thing about the Old Testament is that it was written in a different absolutely different kind of language. Paleo-Hebrew is not like a language that, you know, we're used to. Yeah, it is an absolute concrete language. It means what it says. There's no parables, no, it can be used in a kind of parable way, but it's not in itself. You can't interpret it. It's just it means what it says.
Well, with all due respect, Dave, I love you as a brother, but I strongly disagree. And I'll
really?
just
on that point.
Bible
literacy.
Dave, are you saying the Bible is literal? So, like you say, it means what it says. It's not.
Yes, only because the language it's written in is a concrete language. It's not an abstract, symbolic language like English is.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I've done this example before, but it's the language of pictures. Okay. Now we can use words, English words, to describe something, but you can describe the same thing in pictures, and that set of pictures can only mean that one thing. And I use that the example of the film Forrest Gump. I could describe Forrest Gump as an autistic man, a man on the autistic spectrum recounts his life to strangers. And I say that to people, and they'll say, "Oh, is it Rain Man? Is it Forrest Gump? Is it Beautiful Mind?" All right. But if I said the set of pictures, man running, few trees, box of chocolates, a shrimp, and a boat, well, they usually, halfway through that description, get the film, right, and realize that set of pictures can only mean Forrest Gump. Right. It can't be made to mean Rain Man. It can't be made to mean Beautiful Mind. And that's the word language that the Old Testament was written in.
How do we know how accurate the translation is from a concrete language to an abstract language, and how many times has it been translated too?
Well, that's the thing. You're trying to compare apples to oranges. So you're doing the best you can to translate something concrete into this abstract language. So that's why you're getting this. That's why you get it. This almost dreamy, abstract kind of writing in English, because it's really difficult to translate concrete into abstract.
Can I ask? I want to ask you why you think it's parables and not literal. Where do you get that idea from? That it's just
okay. Yeah, that's a great question. But what is going to happen right now is I'm going to speak in a way that is going to be foreign, and so it's not going to be. This is a discussion that is not 30 seconds long. All right, it's just not.
No, but you can summarize why you think, oh, this is not literal. This is just a story, right?
Okay. So let me do it this way. This is the way I do it in my podcast. If you want to check out Rethinking Revelation, feel free, and then we can follow up there. But the Bible was written in 3 different languages: Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. Okay. Now, what Dave is saying is that in each of those languages, they use concrete ideas, okay? Or concrete words, or the vocabulary is concrete. Heavens, earth, land, snake, man, woman.
Yeah, but I just want to know why you think that
I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to get there.
Sorry.
That's okay. So we've got, if I asked everybody in a Sunday school, how many languages was the Bible written in? Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. And I would say, well, what about the 4th language? It would be dead silent. And I would say, there is one language to rule them all, one language to guide them, one language to reveal them all, and in the light unbind them. There is, within the structure of the authors of the New Testament that understood what they were doing, they used their language symbolically. So that heavens and earth, for a Jew in the 1st century, did not mean the heavens and the earth. It meant the political, religious structure of Israel symbolized in its temple. Okay? That's what the heavens and the earth represent.
What the hell?
Represents...
Where'd you get that from?
It's a multi-dimensional interpretation. I've been saying this for over a year. The Bible is a multi-dimensional book. It means it all.
Okay,
All of
listen.
it.
Hold
He's
on, just
contrasting.
hold on. We just had a beautiful display of cognitive dissonance, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. I said this was going to happen. I said the way I'm going to speak right now, you're not going to get, and that's okay. But I'm just saying it. Okay, if you want to
come
unpack
on.
it,
Come on, don't pull
listen
that
to
crap
the
here,
100.
I
Travis.
just got one question for that. I got one question. You
Go
made
on.
a statement, as we always want. Show me the reference where the Jews or the Jewish understanding had that understanding of that text, of the text that way.
Yeah, it's not there. You have to read the entire
So you're
story.
reading in. So you're basically imposing on the text something that's
No.
not there.
Okay. Listen. I understand your cognitive dissonance. Okay. I've been doing this for the past 20 years. Okay. I understand your question. Your question is good. It's valid. It's right. And you should be having that question in your head. The only thing that I can say is if you want me to give you like a proof text, okay, the best proof text I can give you is to read Isaiah chapter 13 and read it metaphorically, and you'll see that that chapter refers to the nation of Babylon, heaven, earth, and stars. Okay, so that's probably the clearest point that I can give you, to just sit down, read that, and see it.
I mean, I can make that. I'm sorry, Dave.
I'll just say, the truth is simple. Yeah, lies only lies are complicated. Right? I'm sorry, no disrespect, but the truth is always simple. Right? When you're asked a question, you have to spend an hour talking about it. Then no, it's a construct. Yeah, the truth is always simple.
And I would say this about, I've not read Isaiah. I was trying to pull it up to read it, but Isaiah may be talking metaphorically, but that doesn't imply that what's happening in Genesis is metaphorical.
I understand your response.
To draw that bridge. Well, I mean, I've been studying the scripture for a long time, and it sounds like you're imposing something on the text that may not be there. You have to have, I mean, to understand what the text is saying, you have to try to understand what the author was trying to say. But you also can't impose on the text something that's not there. So
I agree. That's why I'm saying it's tacitly there. It's there. We just don't know how to read it because we think concretely when the Bible's not concrete. Okay? It's just not.
I will give you this part. I think the Bible can speak in multiple levels, but when Genesis 1 says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
In the beginning of what? In the beginning of what?
Existence of whatever God.
Is that what it says?
In the beginning, well, I mean, it says in the beginning. When does the beginning begin?
That's the question. That's correct. That's why you have to know more before you start reading Genesis, because Genesis isn't the beginning of the story. Okay, it's just not.
What?
No, it's not. He's right. It's not. But I have to ask. You said Isaiah 13. What are you saying Isaiah 13 is all about?
Well, it's a prophecy against the nation of Babylon. It's a prophecy that armies are going to come against the nation of Babylon. And if you read the chapter, you'll see that the destruction of Babylon is described as if heaven and earth and the stars are coming undone.
Okay, and you're saying that happened, did you? Are you saying that's already happened?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's not what I'm seeing, to be honest. But there you go. But I do agree with you that the first lines of Genesis are actually saying something other than Genesis is the beginning of everything. It actually, if you read the first two lines of Genesis, it actually tells you that there was lots of stuff going on before the period of this book that's just not gone into.
Okay, how about this? What Genesis 1 says, it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So basically, Genesis 1 saying the beginning.
Missing the full stop.
What's that?
You're missing the full stop.
What do you mean the full stop? Show me what you're talking about. Share the Genesis 1 and show me what you're talking about.
Well, okay. Well, it should be, create the heavens and the earth, full stop. Okay. In the beginning, the Most High created the heaven and the earth, full stop. Okay. then you read the next verse. Okay.
How do you come to that conclusion from the text?
Well, because there's a full stop after the earth.
Show me. Okay. Show me the text and show me how that occurs.
Genesis
right.
1:1.
Technically, there's no period in Hebrew, so it's an even Dave Murphy's interpretation right now is an interpretation. There is no full stop. Yeah. There is no colon. There's no exclamation point.
All right, but the point I'm trying to make here, right, is that we assume that the thing just rambles straight on. Okay, when you read the next verse. And the other thing is the book didn't have verses as such. That's something else that was put in.
I know that. I'm asking that question.
When you read the next in the Hebrew, it says, instead of "and the earth was without form and void," it said, "but the earth had become ruinous and empty." So
I'll give you this. I think there's a possibility there could have been a world before this one. I'll give you that.
Well, there was. We know it. There's a pyramid culture that was across the entire earth that was utterly destroyed. So that's such a underwater. Some of them are under, masses of undergrowth in the jungles. Some of them are in Bosnia under earth.
That could be accounted for in Genesis 6 because there was Genesis 6 talks specifically about a great flood. So there could be a civilization between the beginning of Genesis 1 and Genesis 6, a whole civilization that we don't know about, and then the flood of Genesis 6 wiped all that out. So to assume that it goes beyond Genesis 1 is inferring on the text something that's not there. But I can very easily assume what's that?
That's one interpretation. But since there is no...
Go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Since there is no linkage between anybody alive today and that pyramid culture, that would suggest that the entire thing, everything was completely wiped out. As the book says in Jeremiah, the only other time that the words, tohu bohu, which is, ruinous and empty, the only time that's ever used again is in Jeremiah, where it says that all the cities were broken down and everything was destroyed. Everything was destroyed because of the Most High's wrath. But yeah, this is turning into a religious, not religious, a Bible.
I'll leave this comment. I think Dave might be dropping off, but the Bible does use hyperbole. The Bible does use hyperbole, which means it can say, go out and wipe them all out, but that doesn't mean it actually happened that way. So we got to determine whether it's hyperbole they're talking about or if it's literal. So that's part of interpreting the scripture.
Hey, Paul, I'm gonna send you a quick note on the Hangouts message. So just check your account.
Okay, and also I dropped the link for the evidence that demands a verdict in the chat, in the group chat also.
I'm joined by Isam Hall. Ski, how you doing?
Hey, Issa.
Issa, what's up, man?
Come on, don't be a newbie, Issa. Come on.
No sound. Might have to kick you, Issa.
Nah. Just
He says it's not him in chat. That's not Issa.
Oh, really?
He says mic not working.
Somebody boots him out.
But then there's a different Issa Mahalski in the chat that's saying it's, well, let me check this account.
Oh, I'm sure he'll figure it out. He's a smart lad. He's got me on Skype anyway. Been joined by Chris. How you doing, Chris?
Hello.
Hello.
Are you done?
Are we done? Oh, we've got My Warped. How you doing?
Hey, how you going?
Very well. Good to have you.
Thanks.
We had a bit of a jumble round with some of the panel members. A few people have been kicked. Is everyone still here? The whole panel. Rightio. I think that's going to be probably my opportunity to round out this show and then start a new one on a new live stream. So if you are currently watching this on Nathan Oakley or Nathan Oakley 1980 YouTube channels, then I would say stay tuned. Shall I carry on with the after show? I suppose these are one of the dilemmas you're faced when you've just lost your entire panel. Let's pop the panel on mute so I don't get interrupted while I do this. Yeah, I think I'll just round out and then start a whole new one. So first and foremost, a massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of the panel for making this debate possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. It will be the end of the show for all involved. There will be another live show to follow shortly. So stay tuned for that if you are in the Flat Earth debate audience. Check out nathanoakley.com and join the community forum there if you'd like to keep up to date with the community Flat Earth debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!